Ash, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here today with you and just talking about whatever it is going to emerge.
Yes, absolutely. And I so enjoyed the we had a discussion during the Beyond the Veil Summit, and
Yeah.
we just sort of scratched the surface, just touched on ancestral healing. So I wanted to bring you back and sort of tap into what are your thoughts. And so let's start there. What is your experience with the ancestral realm?
Yeah, I mean, I love this question because, in the beginning of just doing mediumship, I was just sort of sorting through all these different things that were coming to me in readings through spirit. And one of the common themes that keeps coming through is this healing that can be done, in the ancestral realm is what I call it. And I always like to say that that doesn't mean that that is the only realm, but the way that I see it and feel it and how it comes to me is this sort of cosmic realm in the cosmos, actually, and a place where we can heal, but also our ancestors can heal. And I just find it sort of amazing because the healing is not very linear. They show me that there's not a like, okay, this happened and then that's it. You can't heal, the lineage anymore, or only this much. It's like you can heal it simultaneously, and then also at the same time our ancestors receive the healing, and it can be both front, back, side to side, because there is no time. So it can go directly through the lineage. And I find this amazing, and being able to hear all the different spirits come through and talk about the trauma that's in the lineages, and also give suggestions on how to heal it. And of course, that is different for every person that I'm reading for. So I just find that fascinating that not only are they showing me all of these things around the healing and then wanting it to get out there, but also wanting to help people in ways every day to unlock it and let it come out and heal it. And it's just been profound to see that people have come to me, my clients, and then they leave and then they go work on stuff and they're like, oh, this whole thing opened up and I was able to actually heal this. And I'm like, what? Really? Yeah. And they go on this whole journey. And I'm amazed. So I just felt so excited to be able to just talk about this more so that it gets out there and that we know that it's possible. Because sometimes it feels like so far out of reach of just like, how am I supposed to heal my entire lineage? Like, I don't even know where to start. And that's a lot. And we're not supposed to do it alone. So it feels important to mention that.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that it's not something that we do alone. We do, hand in hand with them, with our ancestors. And in your work as a death walker, are you finding sometimes that the ancestors will come forward at that time and perhaps assist?
Yes, I find very much so that the ancestors want to be able, it's almost, I call it like a preparation, specifically when someone is in transition. And I just had a client actually yesterday, this happened, where their father is in this dying process right now. And I could tap into his soul as he is transitioning. And there was so much healing that the other ancestors on the other side wanted to give to him and also to his son so that he wasn't burdened as he transitioned, and so the son wasn't burdened as his father transitioned to the other side. So there was this way that they were able to have this conversation that needed to be had and also heal some wounds that were made a long, long time ago from childhood, so that they both could be released from this thing that sort of sits in our, I say it like almost grief. It sits in our physical bodies and it's heavy, especially when we didn't get that opportunity in the physical to really heal these things. Like we go and then we go to these other, we transition and go to these realms. And yet I still find that some souls still are working on things very much on the other side if it wasn't dealt with here in the physical, and the same for us here in the physical as well, which I find really actually hopeful. And like we have so many possibilities and opportunities, whether it's with someone who actually is transitioning, like it's not too late. And that's always what I like to say with clients that I work with, is that it's never too late to be able to go into that healing. And in fact, when the veils are thin as we're transitioning, our ancestors are really around us and really speaking to us and sending us signs of how to heal in that multidimensional way.
Yeah, yeah. I love this conversation because I know many people, and I've experienced this myself, that when somebody passes on, if there's unfinished business, that can make the grieving process so much more difficult. So if
Yeah.
you're finding that it can happen at the time of transition, I think that that's actually a real message of hope, don't you think?
Yeah, I feel it's so hopeful because, I think, and I always like to say, there's deaths that are great and wonderful and peaceful and everyone feels great and there's no whatever. But in all the readings I've done, there's always something, and there's always a grappling or a trauma or a wound or something that wasn't said, or even being able to have the courage to articulate it, like this really hurt me, or I was really affected by this, or just these things to get off of our chest, and to be able to feel that there is a space to be able to heal that, and it's not ever on us alone to be able to do that as well. What I asked of spirit is like, how do we do this then? Like, how do we ask? And they just say, call us in, to come around you and have these conversations or say the things that you're scared to say. And I often find them, around us in this loving support and giving us the courage to say those things so we can be free of them. And it's so I want to normalize how common it is to have grief that is so compacted with so many different feelings. The feeling of I should be sad because they're passing, but I'm also really angry and I'm really frustrated because things did not end well. And I did not get to really feel the feelings that I wanted to feel with them or express to them, and or emotions even, right? And then those things can get trapped. And that's where it leads and can lead to what I've seen in my own experience is just physical manifestations of things, whether it's pain in the body or illness or all these different things that happen. And again, it's not too late. Even when that happens, there's possibility. It's harder is what they've told me. It's more challenging and you need more consistent like work on the physical body, but it is possible. But being able to, yeah, just have that feeling of like, okay, like this can happen. And it might not be this perfect way, because that's also another thing. People are afraid, like, how do I do this? Like, how do I do it the right way and this way? And it's not, there's no right way, there's lots of ways. And how we do it is just how it feels best for us to be able to heal in that. So I find that very powerful, especially in this time, again, of so many deaths happening so rapidly with these different iterations of the pandemic. So it feels really important to get that out there.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. And thank you for bringing that up. This is, I think, a really important point that a lot of people aren't able to say their goodbyes in person. Some people, I mean, it's getting better now, but for a while there, we couldn't even have funerals. And so there was a lot of lack of closure. So I imagine that there's a lot of work that's going to need to be done once we come out, if we ever come out on the other side of this.
Exactly. Yes. And it can be, the possibility of that too. I work with some folks who have had, things in their lineage that happened so long ago. And the healing, I'm talking like 20, 30, 40 years ago. And it has come down to them, and they are able to actually feel the things that their ancestors never were able to feel or process or integrate because they didn't know how. They didn't have the tools. And this person happens to be an empath or a big feeler, and they're like, oh, I gotta, all this stuff is coming through and I don't know why. And so we're able to work through that and then build ritual and practices around ways of being assisted by the more than human world to free themselves of this, and also to free the lineage of that. And that feels really hopeful with what's going on.